welcome to Chalk Talk episode 4. We're going to be breaking down lighting and nutrition and soil in this episode. In the past episodes, we talked about research, getting to know the plant, finding good content, finding good research out there. We're at a point where we don't need bro science. There's factual growing going on. So make sure you're finding good research. Reach out if you are struggling to find the right people. As far as the environment, we talked about the environment, how crucial that is. This VPD, that vapor pressure deficit, the temperature and the humidity, that equation that makes everything important in your garden. You're going to want good intake coming in. You want air flowing around. You want to keep this just like outside, that nice breeze going, fresh air in, new CO2 coming in, and you're going to crush it. So we got those two checked off the box. So now we'll just need lighting, nutrition, and then we'll throw beans in. You'll be ready to grow, and then we'll talk you through that and break down more categories. More complex situations. So with lighting, there's so many great companies out there. I use these: AC Infinity, Spider Farmer, Vivo Sun, but there's Horticultural Lighting Group, there's Mars Hydro. There's a bunch of good lighting companies out there that you can use. Just make sure that they're running some sort of good technology, like the Samsung 301B diodes and the Briggs Lux chips. There's so many cheap ones out there these days. Spend a little bit extra money, get the good technology in it that's going to last you for a long time and be able to get you the yields that you're looking after. When it comes to lighting, they're going to be breaking it down in two different forms. Your coverages, they'll have a veg cover and a flower cover. What that's going to mean is when you have a 3x3 light that's only going to be able to veg in a 4x4, if you're in a 5x5, you may be able to get the PPFD that you're after in the whole tent. So you want to keep that in mind, that you want to kind of go after your flower numbers if you're trying to get the most out of your tent and your square footage. So you don't have to go that way. If you're on a budget, don't worry about it. Just get a light in the tent and you're going to crush it either way. When you're talking about the power that's going to be produced these lights, you want to make sure that you're doing it safely. So most people are running off 20 amp breakers. There are 15 amp breakers, but that's more for like your household items, like your lamps and your TVs and stuff. And your 20 amps going to be for more like your washing machines and your dryers and stuff that has a little bit more juice coming out of them. So I always like to go by this, and this is what the electricians go by. And I work really close with an electrician. I by far know an electrician, so he's taught me a lot. But you want to stay below that 80% of usage. So with a 20 amp breaker, it's going to give you 240 watts total. So that 80% is going to be 1920 watts. So we're not using all the 2400 watts. It's available, but you only want to use 80%. And that's how we got the equation here, is there's 20 amps times 120 volts equals the full amount. That's 100% right there. So I multiplied that by 0.8, which is your 80%, and that got me the 1920 watts. So think about everything that's going onto that breaker, not just your grow. Keep that in mind. You want to be very safe about this stuff because these lights can get up to 1,000 watts, and if you're on a breaker that already has a washer and dryer on it, you could be looking into some problems, blowing breakers, and even maybe something worse. So with lighting, there's a lot of fun things that you can do with it. What I like to do is I like to hang my tents higher and turn the light up a little bit more. It's going to create more warmth. Yes, your electric bill might go up a little bit, but if you can't get the heat in your garden, and instead of buying a heater right off the rip, because you're going to be paying for that electricity for that heater now, turn your lights up a little bit, see if it balances itself out and makes it to where you don't have to get a heater, because you can turn your lights up a little bit more and not worry about burning your plants. And that's very important, is think about that when you're getting a light too. If you're worried about heat, these drivers come apart now to where you can set them on top of your tent. Huge shout out to my boy who reminded me to talk about this in this episode, because it is important, because these lights are so interchangeable now. You can put, like you said, your driver on top if you need heat out. If you need more heat, put your driver in there, raise your lights up, turn them up a little bit more. If you're having a problem with heat, you can lower your lights and turn them down, or you turn them down a little bit more, so you're not using much power, you're saving money there, and you're not producing a bunch of heat in there. So there's a bunch of ways to go about it. If you have any questions about lighting, get a hold of me. I'd love to walk you through it even more, get more in depth. I just want to keep it simple, plain Jane right now. Just get a light that's going to fit your needs. They're going to break it down for you on all these companies' charts, what you're after, your UMOLs, everything that you need. And don't think too much into it. All these lights are very, very good these days. Just make sure you're using a reputable source. That's why I love this community, is we all are representing good companies, what works for us in our garden. So most of us are not going to lead you astray. It's just what works for us in our garden. So I'm not going to touch much more on lighting. There's a lot of ways we can go about lighting like I talked about, but I think we're covered the gist of it. Get you a light. Make sure you're staying at that 80% available. Don't use it all up. Be safe about it. And now let's get into some nutrition and some soil. So there's many ways to go about this. This is just my recipe that I've built off using Build a Soil's products. They have a bunch of products. You can use all of them. You don't have to use very many at all. Their soil is very, very potent, and you can create your own soil. You can create your own compost, your own vermicompost. You can make your own ferments. That's what's so fun about organics is once you get more comfortable with how everything works, how the soil food web works, what you're really trying to accomplish, you may be able to make your own compost to where you don't have to buy it anymore. You can make your own worm bends where you're making your own castings. There's so many ways to go about it. Making ferment's so easy. It's just a water to molasses to the lactic acid bacteria, a little 1:1 to 100 ratio. Very simple to do. I don't have the time and I can't ask my wife to do the garden when I'm on the road on top of that, but someday I will. I would love to make my own soil, my own compost, and just be at one with your grow. I mean, that'd be so cool to be able to create your own soil and produce your own flowers without buying anything. And that's the goal at the end of the day for all of us. And that's where Build a Soil helps us with that, because they understand that we all don't have the time and the resources and the knowledge to be able to create our own. So they're going out and they're getting very top of the line, clean, tested products that you can, like I said, you can use them all and you can use some. And this is just how I do it in my garden. So before we get into the individual products, I want to talk about this third to third to third ratio. This is a very common recipe when it comes to building your own organic soil. Is you'll have a third base, which I use peat moss. There's a couple ways you can go about it: cocoa, pit. I love peat moss. The other third is going to be your aeration, your pumice, your rice hulls. You want to be able to, you don't want your soil to be compact, and that's where the worms will come in handy over time, is they're going to create channels and create all this microbiology life, and there's going to be gaps and stuff. But to start off, I highly recommend getting some aeration in there. And then the last one's going to be your compost and your vermicompost. Now this can be where you get all your nutrition from. Your NPK, your nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are your macronutrients. But it's also going to come with a buttload of micronutrients, a bunch of biology, a bunch of beneficial bacteria, beneficial insects, and you don't even need any of this. If you can get your compost and your vermicompost on point towards balance, nutritious, you don't need any of this. And that's the end game, is to be able to run off this third to third ratio and water, put in some ferments, put in some biology every once in a while. But at the end game, it's you're chopping and dropping your leaves, you're cutting the stalk off at the as lowest point and keeping the roots intact, keeping these fungal paths all together, not disrupting the soil, that no-till method. And with that method, you can go off of just vermicompost, a base, and some aeration. But if you can't produce this, which it's very hard, especially in smaller containers, we're talking about thousands of acres of soil that have these interconnecting just forces of biology and just that soil structure that you're after. So in smaller beds, they're 3x3, 4x4 beds, the 70 gallons of soil, 120 gallons of soil, whatever you may be using, it's going to be easier the bigger amount of soil you get into. So if you can only get into a 15 gallon, which is what we recommend the lowest to go on in no-till, you may have to add some of this stuff in, like your Build-A-Bloom and your Build-A-Veg and your Craft Blend and your gold mustard seeds and stuff. But like I said, at the end of the day, you're trying to get rid of all this. I'm trying to ease you into gardening and showing you how I do things, because like I said, I've only been gardening for 2.5, it'll be 3 years in April, and I don't have everything down. I don't understand everything, and I'm not trying to portray that I do. I'm just trying to spread what I know and how I've been able to grow with success very early on, save some money, and actually learn about how the natural world works, what happens underneath our grasses and our trees. Why do they stay alive without us bringing nutrition? That's because of everything like the decomposition, that cycle of life with the soil food web underneath, creating all of this magic down there to produce healthy flowers and plants. So if you can't do this, this is what we're going to be, this is my recipe. It's Build a Soil's recipe, but I pick and choose what I want to use and what I feel is necessary. So a lot of this is for a Rheamen. So Craft Blend, that's going to be like your nutrition, your NPK. It's going to be a guaranteed amount of your minerals, your amendments, your nutritional amendments. It's going to have gnarly barley in it. It's going to have a lot of good things to keep that balance, to keep the nutrition in your soil. Next, we got the compost here, which we talked about here, your vermicompost. I want to add that in too. Like I said, we're in smaller, we're not outside growing. When you're outside, it's a totally different story. So we want to keep this biology happy, especially when you're growing massive plants. You never want to steal everything. You want to kind of keep it, half full. You don't want to, fill it too much to where you're getting lockouts and you're toxic, but you don't want to drain it of all its resources. Keep that balance. That's what organics are all about. Balanced food, balanced watering, balanced environment. Just natural ways of growing. So with that, you're gonna want to get worms in there. Worms, like I said, those are your soldiers. They're part of the soil food web. They're gonna go down in there, break down nutrition, organic matter. They're gonna return it to the soil. The nematodes are gonna feed off it. The arthropods are gonna feed off of it. All those critters, those cool beneficial superheroes in our soil, and the worms are all gonna work together to be able to make sure that your plant has the nutrition no matter where it's at in the soil. It'll be able to farm it and create it. So ferments, I'm a huge ferment guy. I think even if I grew outdoors, I would always use ferments. It's just so much different, diverse in biology. It's this fermentation process of using some sort of like a hemp, and then you add the sugars in for the molasses, so you can have the sugar to feed the microbes. And then you just mix it with water, and then you let it get down to a certain pH, and then you can just water your plants with it, and it is so good for them. It's got that lactic acid bacteria that we talked about, and with organic growing, as you're going to know, bacteria and fungi are like the beginning of the soil food web. They're very important to make sure everything else works in its own cycle. So a 12 seed cover crop here, that's just a cover crop that I use, and I'm going to start working on getting something else because it's got a lot of clover, but it's got vetch in there, and vetch likes to grow tall and twine around things, almost like a vine. So I'm going to be looking to just get clover in there, and the reason we use cover crop is to help spread moisture. So if you've got one plant in the middle and you have no roots outside of that water is just going to wick to those roots. It's just natural how it's going to happen. That's why there's bottom feeding pots, because those roots will wick that water. So if you have roots spread out all over, even baby roots, don't worry about stealing your nutrition. If you have a balanced soil, your cash crop's going to eat, your cover crop's going to eat, they're going to be totally fine. Just spread that moisture, protect the soil, protect that rhizosphere area around your roots. Get some mulch in there. As Jeremy says, you're missing the boat if you have bare soil. There are no bare soils in nature. So just keep that in mind. We're just trying to make indoor growing simple like it is outdoors. We're just recreating it indoors, which is so cool. So the gnarly barley, this is in the craft blend. You don't have to get these individuals, but I love sprouted seeds. I love all the enzymes and the nutrition that comes with it. And this is one that Clactomus Coot and Build a Soil collabed on. So I highly recommend getting that in there. It's just full kernels that you grind up and put it into your soil. It's so good and advantageous for your soil. Like I said, it comes in the craft blend. You can get by with just the craft blend if you don't have your compost on point with all the NPK that you need and all the micro and macronutrients. So gold mustard seed, this is going to be more of a nitrogen source, and a pest management is a 4.5, 1.4, 1.5, something roughly around there, 411. So it's going to have a little bit more nitrogen in there, but not an outrageous amount. So you can use this as a nitrogen source. If you get a soil test, you can use this, which is so cool that I learned that from Zach Branson over there at Build a Soil. So if you're new to growing and you've done a couple reamends and you're like, man, I think I might want to get a soil test, get a hold of Build a Soil. They even have the soil doctor on there and Zach Branson that will do a consultation with you and explain why and what you're doing things, which is a great way to learn and get this whole organic process of doing it on your own. You don't need an outside source to be able to garden. We're just cheating and using some very good sources right now until we can make our own. So the root-wise, that's your biological, your biology, your bacillus, your bacterias. It's everything in there that you're going to want to get into the soil to create the soil food web that's going to have all that diversity in it. I highly recommend starting a grow with this, watering in as you do a reamend, and maybe water it in before flower. They have a biofos as well that's more stimulated towards the flowering process. Different microbes, but you can use these interchangeable. I don't think you have to use biofos and flower. I think you can play with these root wise. Just get one of the root wises in your garden. Use the enzyme elixir. It's going to help speed up the process of bringing those the biology out of its dormancy. Kashi here. I know you guys probably heard a lot about Kashi, and if you haven't learned about it, there's a lot of ways you can use it. A lot of great things that come from it. It's a compost accelerator, so it's going to do a chop and drop, and you throw that on top of your leaves. It's going to help quicken that decomposition process. It's going to also come with a bunch of nutrition. I have the peat moss mineral kit. There's minerals in Craft Blend. That's what Craft Blend's so good, is it's got your nutrition in there, it's got your seed meal, it's got your minerals in it. But we're growing massive plants, and we're trying to make these beds last us a very long time. We don't want to deplete the soil. So about every other reamend, I will add this mineral kit, and this is based just for peat moss, and it's going to give you the right amount of minerals that you need. 4 cups per cubic foot is what you want to use for your minerals. However you want to go about it, this is just kind of what I've been using. And then the Kiaha here, it's a wetting agent, very good wetting agent. If you're in smaller pots or you're just starting to grow and you don't have that soil structure, all the fungi creating its webs and everything, you're gonna want to try the Kiaha, because if you're watering and it's going straight to the bottom, use this. It's gonna be able to absorb and retain and grab onto different soil particles and not just rush through your garden, and actually retain that moisture. But that's pretty much it as far as what I'm doing in my gardening. Like I said, we're trying to create this simple process of organic gardening, process of elimination. You don't need all of these things. You can get away with just getting your main soil, like a Build-A-Soil 3.0. They come in a 7-gallon bag roughly. So you can do the math on if you're gonna run in a 15-gallon or 30-gallon, and that's gonna come with all your nutrition for your first grow. And then you can add different types of things in on your reamends, which I do reamend videos too. Go check them out. I just break down what I've been doing in my garden. What do I use? How do I use it? How much? If you're not understanding what I'm saying. And they also have bigger kits, which is cool. They have the 3x3 kit, which I bought 2 of these. I have 2 70-gallon beds, which is what holds in the 3x3 bed, and it comes with everything you need in your first soil. You get to build it all from scratch, mix it together, turn it, watch it cook, and know that you created this soil. You may not create it at home, but you got your hands dirty, you mix this soil, you're using a good balanced recipe to get started, and then you get to play with it after that and make it your own recipe. Add in different things. I've heard a guy talk about putting corn cobs in there. You can put different types of fruits in there. You can play with it so many different ways. Put different types of rocks down in there with different nooks and crannies for the microbes to go in there and tunnel and make it their own little habitat in there. It's so fun to play with this organic style, especially in the bigger beds. They have the 4x4 kit, which is double the 3x3. There's so many ways to go about it. The bigger beds of soil, the better. But I think you can crush it with 15 gallons and above. You just may have to add a little bit more nutrition, a little bit more supplements to it, which there's no problem with that at all. And if you're new to growing completely and I totally lost you here, reach out to me. Email me, mccannabisluke@gmail.com, or just message me on Instagram. I love talking with you guys. I love learning with you guys, and I love taking you to a successful harvest without spending as much money as possible and getting something that's going to last you a long time until you can create your own type of gardening with making your own compost and making your own vermicompost and castings and ferments. So I'll let you go, Gromies. It's been awesome with this Chalk Talk. I really appreciate all you guys, and I just want to make sure that you know that this is for beginning growers. If you're advanced, I would love for you to tune in, but we're trying to keep things simple. We're not trying to overwhelm anybody and not explain everything that's going on in the soil food web and everything that's going on with lighting. I just want to keep it basic, get you guys in the door, get you started, keep doing the research. The research never ends. I'm still reading and researching to this day, and I forever will, because the knowledge is endless, and that's what I want to do, is just kind of take my knowledge and put it onto you, and you take in what you want and then get rid of the bad. You know what I mean? So I'm not perfect. I'm no botanist or anybody special. I'm just a home grower. I work a very good job. I'm always gone on the road, and I love gardening, and I want you guys to love it too. It can be a great hobby of yours. It can be an escape to you. It could just be, it could eventually be something that maybe makes you money someday, and you're making money right off the rip because you're not going to the dispensary spending $150 for an ounce or $200. You're getting good medicine that you know that you built with organic, great material. And if you grow synthetic, there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't really have much to say on it. It can be very tricky to grow synthetic if you don't know what you're doing, and I don't want to push you guys onto organic lifestyle. I'm just going to tell you the way of gardening, the way of thinking about organic matter, and just how you can relate it so much to outdoors. It's so much fun and so cool getting your fingernails dirty and playing in the dirt, and that not might be for everybody. Worms might freak you out, but it's all natural, and once you start it, you won't be able to give it up. So let me know if you have any questions for me. Like I said, email me, get a hold of me. And until next time, Gromies, we're going to be talking about some beans. We're going to get some beans in your soil, talk about genetics, which ones you want to use, talk about, different types of climates that they're going to be coming from, just everything that you need to know to kind of get started. So we broke everything down. We're going to keep it simple. And once we get the beans in there, we'll start going back and break down more topics, individual training, watering methods, everything that you need to kind of keep you going through the grow. You could grow with me on this channel because I'll be putting these out every week. So till next time, Gromies, much love, and I hope you have a great holidays.